I'm Laura Jarrell, and I hope your student will join me this year for more Artful Journeys. First of all, this class is a continuation of last year, only really in the name. We will have a full lineup of new projects and new artists that we'll be looking at and drawing inspiration from. So returning students can join up and they'll see all new things. And if you're a first timer, you can join too. No art experience is required. This class is offered in two age groups, 10 to 13 and 7 and 9. The difference being the younger class will have different instructions and maybe a little bit of streamlining for some things, and the older kids can handle a little bit more when it comes to complicated parts of a project. Other than that, they'll mostly be studying the same artists and mostly be doing the same projects. One example where we split it up this past year was I wanted the kids to learn about doing portraits and the proportions, getting the right proportions for drawing faces. So the older kids learned about Rembrandt, who lived in the 1600s. He was a great portrait artist of the time. And the things we looked at in the project we did for that one was a little too complicated for the younger kids. So the younger kids got to learn about the art of Salvador Dali, a surrealist. His art is completely different than Rembrandt's, but we still drew inspiration from Salvador Dali in something like this, where we took a look at his crazy mustache, and that was really the fun part of our project, but we still learned how to do proper proportions for drawing faces. Now the older kids, as I said, learned about Rembrandt, and so we drew portraits like this in the style of people during Rembrandt's time, but using some soft pastels on black paper and working on those proportions, but having a completely different project. I also like to give the kids exposure to art supplies they might not have or use at home, as well as techniques they might not have heard before. One example this year was when we learned about Van Gogh and specifically Starry Night. The kids learned how to look at that picture and then replicate a scene or the scene of Starry Night, but we also did this fun marbling technique for the sky. So it was a two-part process, turned out really fun. Here's a student example, and the kids really had a good time with that one. Most of our projects will take either 1 or 2 weeks. I'd love it if we could finish a project every week, but it just doesn't always happen. So it's usually a 1 to 2 week turnaround time for projects. Over here you can see some other samples of work we did. This was looking at the work of Georgia O'Keeffe. We've got a couple of contemporary artists here, Kelly Nega and Jen Ranyi, and this was from when we learned about Paul Cézanne and we painted pears. And so I really like to pull from a variety of artists as well as styles, so kids have a well-rounded exposure to a lot of different things. I tell the kids how to do a project, but I really leave it up to them, and they get to use their creativity to infuse their own style. And if they have a take on it, something they want to do different, I really encourage that because they are the artist, and I tell them that. So I'm looking forward to another fun year in Artful Journeys, and I hope you'll join me. Thank you.